Well, my first fascination was with Telecasters, and it came from the fact that it was music driven. The fact that
Okay guys, we are getting ready to head down to Glazier's to do another Tele mod video. We already got the bender, triple tree, now we're gonna add some Groove Master to it. So, they recently came out with these saddles that go on your Telecaster, and Joe was telling me about them. I'm like, man, these things are really fascinating. So, this is gonna be another one of those super long, nerdy videos, but I will add timestamps this time, because I also wanted to talk to Joe about his history of Telecasters. Joe's been building teles since the 70s, and I don't know, I just find all that stuff very interesting. You guys have stated many times in these videos that you enjoy the longer videos where I just kind of let the camera roll. So we're going to do that a little bit today, and like I said, I'll put those timestamps in there. But more importantly, we're going to put these Groove Master saddles on my Tele. I'm going to record some tones beforehand and after, see if it changes the sound. But keep in mind, that was never their goal. Was changing sound or anything like that. They're actually fixing quite a few issues that the original Tele bridges have, so you're going to hear about all that stuff today. Also, I think it's really important for you guys to know that none of this stuff is sponsored. Everything I've done at Glazier's has strictly been just, I thought it would be a cool video. That's all it is, and the videos will never be sponsored. You know, I feel like they're paying us with their time and their knowledge, and I just don't want money to be involved in any of this stuff. They're strictly just meant to be nerdy guitar videos, and quite frankly, they don't need me to promote any of this stuff. Like the saddles that we're going to be talking about today, they've sold out of them 3 times now. Like, you know, they can't keep them in stock. So they don't need me promoting them, but if you do want to check them out, I will link them down below. But like I said, just know, none of this stuff is sponsored, just a cool, nerdy guitar video. So anyways, let's get down to Glazier's and let's learn about the Groove Master saddles. All right, we made it.
Excellent.
With someone new in the video. I've talked about you
What's
before.
up?
But this is Josh. So this is the Josh that I've mentioned
y'all.
multiple times. And then I'm still trying to figure out
Joe.
who this guy. Oh, Joe. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
That's right.
it's Joe.
Sorry. And the other day you were telling me about these saddles that you make for teles.
That's
and
right.
I wanted to add them to mine. What's the advantage of them, I guess, is where that all comes into play at.
Well, thanks for your interest in the saddles. Our experience with Telecasters goes back a really long way. So several decades back, the first ever Nashville 3-pickup Telecaster came out of this shop. We've been doing B-benders for just about the same amount of time. And we deal with Nashville session players and touring artists who often have a Tele on the road. And so this is part of our history of making Telecaster products.
Okay.
3-string tree, the bender, a wiring harness for Telecasters that allows you to blend the bridge and middle pickup. It's just become a kind of a part of classic country music, along with some of the other things. But Joe, maybe you can provide some more background on the role of the Telecaster in your life. Not to mention that you've built hundreds and hundreds of them.
Well, my first fascination was with Telecasters, and it came from the fact that it was music driven. The fact that I really liked the Los Angeles-based country stuff, being Freddie Weller and Emmylou Harris, and a lot of these sort of hip things. And I played in a band. I played steel, and I played in a band with a couple of great Telecaster players, John Abraham and Rick Eshelman. And they understood before I did the perfect simplicity of a Telecaster. But it became a big part of what I did. When I moved here, I was lucky enough to fall under the influence of Bill Hullett, who people call Telecaster Bill, who had a 1950 Tele, and he further pointed out the tiny little details that made all the difference in the world between a great one. And anyway, that's the first instruments I built were Telecasters. I built a lot of them, and almost immediately started building 3-pickup Teles. And I basically, I like to say I copied Fender, and then Fender copied me, which is kind of a justification of my guilt. All along, it became pretty clear that that Fender got it right. When they made 3 brass saddle versions of the bridge, that was great. We used in the 80s, we used 6 saddle, square saddle bridges, but that was just because it was kind of it was a new thing, and people thought, oh, intonation is, wow, now we have intonation. Traditionally, you could bend the Tele saddles on the intonation screw and dial in your intonation exactly right. The idea that you can't intonate an original Tele saddle is not true, but it took a little doing. Eventually, as we got back more and more to 3-pickup Tele saddles, and particularly when we started doing a lot more benders again, we'd been doing them since the late 70s, but it got redesigned. We redesigned it in 2018, and now we do several a day, it became clear that the three-barrel saddle style had issues. Intonation was the least important of the remaining issues because lots of people make intonated saddles. API, Wilkinson, and Godot, and everybody does. Strings sliding side to side. String placement was an unsolved problem, and strings would have a tendency to fall down into one of the height adjustment screws, or move over, or create a groove that was unintentional.
Because even on this one, you can see the A is right next to that screw.
Well, and that's just, I mean, ultimately you have to put it where you want to put it.
Yeah.
Fender did, in the early 60s and late 50s, they used a saddle that they made out of steel that was threaded. It was called all thread, and it was a very tight thread. And those were really cool sounding. It's something like the 1960 or 61 Tele that Robin Ford has, which is an incredible guitar, has that kind of saddle.
Okay.
I loved them. I loved everything about them except that when you thread, you're kind of, because the thread is moving along an object, it has to be at an angle. It's climbing.
Yeah.
And that means that the string sitting in one of those grooves is going to be free of one wall, but just laying against another, that's the formula for sitaring. And so it was always an issue. So what I was thinking about was, how do we get back to something where the player could set the position by moving the string in the groove, in a particularly fine groove like the 60, 61 Fender all-thread saddles, but not have that sitaring. And also, those were never available in brass. So our solution was to come up with this. These are straight grooves. It's a very fine pattern. It's the smallest pattern that would work well with the low strings, the big strings, and the biggest pattern that would still work well for the treble strings. So we really dialed in that groove gauge. But we built in an intonation line. So for instance, you can see on this that the E is in front of the B. It's in front by about 70 thousandths, which is what the correction for most strings is. I mean, that's what it just happens to be. That's the way strings work out. And for this one, this is the same saddle flipped over, and it has the mirror image intonation line built into the back side of it. So we're making one saddle that you can either use here and here, or flip it over and use there.
Oh, so they're like reversible.
They're reversible.
Oh, okay.
And we selected the material really carefully because sound is everything. We selected the shape, the intonation line. As always, the way we do stuff here, I don't know if you ever posted that picture of Bukovac blindfolded when we were testing the early bridges, but
Oh no, I don't think you sent it to me.
I've got it somewhere.
You showed it to me, but
Yeah. Anyway, testing sound and pitch has always been critical, and so we went through a long prototyping and then development process coming up with this. And I mean, you can talk about how many of them they're made, how quickly they go out, and what the reports are back from people.
Yeah. Well, you brought up a point earlier about this string bumping up against the height adjustment screw.
Yeah.
And so
it's
as part
right
of
up against it.
Yeah, it's right there, and this can cause kind of a tinging sound, a sitaring sound. I mean, essentially, you just have too many interactions on this string, and not to mention that, to Joe's point, that there's going to be a cross thread, so the string is sitting at an awkward angle. We made, on our Telecaster saddles, the height adjustment screw as far outboard as we possibly could.
We spread them out
That's
to
right.
the max of the piece.
Right. So while maintaining the strength of the saddle, we tried to get as far outboard as we could, so you'd have as much flexibility as possible.
Yeah.
What's more, we also provide with these saddles shorter intonation grub screws on the outside than on the inside.
Height adjustment
screws, so that you can achieve the radius that you want, because typically your outside strings are going to end up lower than your internal strings. So just a couple of things that fit within the tradition of the stuff that we do at Glaser Instruments is also the reversibility. I mean, you'll see on right now you've got this set for a G, then it's reversible for a B.
Yeah, I always thought that was cool. On the bender.
Yeah, on the bender, and kind of following that tradition, we did the same thing with the Telecaster saddles, which allows for wound, unwound, lefty, righties to all be able to use the same product and have complete flexibility as they change their setup, string set, or whatever they end up doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk about the steel and also what's going to happen to the steel saddles and what's going to happen to the bender saddles.
Yeah. Well, right now, as you see, when we put this on your guitar, we're going to only be able to address these outside saddles. And
Yeah, we're gonna actually. I'm taking the bender off.
you're taking the bender off.
Temporarily,
just
just for the show.
temporarily, just so
Okay.
we can have all three of them on here.
Okay, understood.
Yeah.
Well, very soon you'll be
Yeah.
able to keep the bender on because we're going to add the micro grooves to the back of the default bender saddles as well. So this is an update that we're working on now.
Okay, because that was one of my questions
Yeah.
when I was looking at the saddles. Here, I was like, well, why are there no grooves on the
Yep.
bender? Wouldn't
So
that, wouldn't
that's
that
coming.
help it? So
Sure,
it's coming.
that's coming. It's logical, and people have asked about it. And it is kind of a natural extension of what we're trying to do. We'll probably make it both ways because people who don't want to use these grooved saddles, what are called the Groove Master saddles, if they don't want to use the Groove Master saddles, we will still have non-grooved bender saddles. But this was sort of like everything else, trying to address the issues that we had heard over and over again from people, the strings sliding around. The other thing is that unlike almost all of the replacement saddles, these are our SAE American thread screws. They're 632 set screws. They're stainless, so they won't rust and get stuck in there. And they're 632 intonation. 6 is the diameter size, and 32 is the number of threads to an inch. That's what traditionally has been used on Teles. And the great thing about it is that it's a slightly coarser thread. It holds up better, and also for people who really look at what they have, it looks right. And there's plenty of people out there who look at a metric thread. The screw's a little bit long, a little bit small in diameter, and then the thread's tight. It just doesn't look right on a Tele. It just shouldn't be on the American classic instrument of all times.
Well, Robert, you already know part of the work that we do upstairs is we take the insights and experimentation that happens downstairs in the repair shop, and up here at Music City Bridge, we try to translate that into functional products that we can share with people.
Yeah.
And this is like a perfect embodiment of it because we work on so many Telecasters, we get so much feedback. I mean, we're talking about dozens of Telecasters roll through the shop every week, so we're able to experiment, ask questions about what people really want. And the first 3 batches of this went very quickly. I mean, within 2 or 3 hours, we were able to get them out the door. And that said a lot of things about the market, which is people are not satisfied with what's available, and we have an affordable, good saddle that solves all of the issues that people have been thinking about all these years.
Yeah, well, and probably, I mean, especially being here around so many session guys, like they're under such a microscope of headphones and mics and all that kind of stuff.
That's
I mean,
right.
they're going to hear all the little, like, hey, like, this isn't totally in tune. So, I mean, it's cool that you guys are obviously working with them, getting feedback to make something.
And their standards, not that there aren't great players everywhere. There are great players everywhere.
Oh, no doubt.
But typically, the really great ones and the picky ones end up either full-time or in some capacity that sooner or later we get to hear from them and we get their feedback. And so we did, as Josh said, we made I don't know how many sets of these, and we tested them quietly on the session guys and the artists around here, and the feedback was good.
Yeah.
And then we made our first run of 600 sold out, that day, and we were like, well, let's go ahead and ship 600 and see what happens.
Yep.
And something really surprising happened. We didn't, even though we had picked the material very carefully, the kind of brass, and picked the design hoping it would emphasize sound, we weren't expecting to hear back from people about the tone. And that's been one of the main bits of feedback we hear, mostly from the professional players, that their guitars sound great, that they sound better. And it's a little unnerving because when you're trying to make something that's a mechanical solution and people go, wow, it sounds so much better. Ordinarily, you'd be suspicious, or I would. I'm from Missouri. I'm like, prove it. Ordinarily, I would think, well, this is just the effect of changing something and being happy that you gave your guitar a gift. But this is the J.D. Simos and the Rob McNellys and these top flight players who have nothing to gain by dreaming that something's better, and James Pennebaker and you name it, the best of the quiet people we know who make their living playing, not yapping about it. And so that's always nice to know. It's always nice to know that literally every single person. I mean, somebody's going to call up and go, "Hey, I hate these things. It changed the color of the body." Or,
Yeah, right, sure.
You know, my car doesn't run now.
Doesn't match my shoes.
Yeah, it doesn't match my shoes. But we're really delighted about the fact that we hit on something that people do relate to.
Yeah, getting honest feedback is a perennial challenge for us, because you hand somebody a CD or you show them a design, oh, they're going to fluff you up and they're going to compliment you on your work. And so being able to quietly sneak these in to repairs and be able to say, hey, we're trying to get feedback, just give it to us honestly, or put the blindfold on.
Yeah.
Because it's really hard to get past that first level of compliment and the desire for someone. Everyone thinks they want a compliment. We don't want compliments. We want to be able to get real feedback and improve our product. So every time we put out a batch, we end up making improvements. So for example, you've got the latest batch, which has a really small bevel. After the front edge, we added a bevel because we thought we wanted a better break-off point so that we didn't have such a sharp edge on the front of the saddle. And that's an example of something that we do periodically. Every couple of months, we continue to improve the product because we want to, we want the best stuff out there.
Do you have any of these right now? Like if someone wanted to order these, is there like a batch of them that people can get, or is it like they have to wait a while?
So it's difficult. So these saddles take a long time, right? Because they're a really small part, and you can imagine on a CNC machine, carving these grooves is extremely difficult, and then also being able to get a reasonable finish on the product.
They're hand polished. It's not a buffed polish.
Yeah.
But the machine marks are taken out by hand, which is slow and expensive.
Yeah.
But it has an aesthetic that we wanted to be able to offer, so that people looked at them and didn't see anything annoying.
So to answer your question, the best thing to do is to register your interest in the product on our website, musiccitybridge.com.
Okay.
You'll see at the top of the page there's a little email form. You can put it in. They may be available by the time this video comes out, but they've been coming in waves. So every time we get some in, they go out pretty quickly. But the best thing is, if you get your email in, we'll give you a call, we'll get connected, and we'll try to get you a set.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll link that stuff in case someone's interested in it.
That'd be super helpful.
But
awesome. I'm excited to see these on your guitar, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way they look, and like the more you were telling me about them, I'm like, oh yeah, like the sitaring thing, which is what that string does.
I'm sure.
For me, I hear it whenever I'm playing, and same whenever we put the 3-string tree on there, like it was sitaring really bad, and I'm like, oh man. So thanks for making something that.
Well, that was the reason for pulling the G string down on the 3-string tree.
Yeah.
Again, to be clear, your saddles are steel, which were used, originally in the late 50s. Some people like it. We do have steel ones coming out shortly. So.
Oh, so you're gonna make steel ones?
Oh yeah, we'll definitely make steel ones. We kind of wanted to. Steel's harder to work with. It's stainless steel, so they won't get rusty and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's harder to work with. It's more expensive. We wanted to get past proof of concept before getting steel ones, because you don't want to be sitting on, 3,000 or something that now you wish you'd move the screw somewhere. So they'll be out shortly. They're already in process, and so we try to address everything that people ever want. Thanks so much.
Thanks for visiting.
As always.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate this.
So just real quick, I just want to measure your action, make sure I put everything in the same spot.
Yeah, I'd like it to be.
Do you like where it's at?
Yeah, I do. It's a little bit higher than usual, but I just like that on the Tele.
You've been playing too many Ibanez's.
Also, we should say hi to Nick.
Hey. Here I am. I mean, I'm glad these are finally out, because it took a lot, we drawing it and stuff, we just had so many little revisions here and there that it just took a while to. We had a short run and then sold out, and then I just had to. We just can't keep them in right now.
So when you say you had to like redraw them, like digitally, you were doing like a 3D image of them, and
yeah, I can show you real quick just so you can see.
If you have one, that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, close up.
So is this really like where a lot of when you guys are designing stuff, is it a collaboration of you and Joe?
I have to get information from everybody and then translate it into something. Yeah. So he says, oh, we should make a groove saddle. Well, that's awesome. And then it's like, then I have to come in and make it, then to prototype it, You know, you can see all the steps it took to get here. But yeah, that's what, anytime we come up with something, it gets put to me, and then I got to draw it up and then get a prototype made for it.
Okay.
So, but this is just so you see a zoomed in view,
Yeah, that's so cool.
and then you flip it around, you can see it sits the opposite direction. It's fine.
I just basically want to make this as hard and complicated as possible.
So like I said, this is pretty simple stuff here.
Mhm.
And then on the website, did they show you the diagram of the staggering, how to stagger them?
No, they didn't.
Okay. So on the website, this is on there, just explaining which orientation to put the saddle, because you can flip it and these run the opposite direction.
Oh, okay.
So you can run it this way, flip it over, and it runs this way.
Okay.
So for your D and G, you want it to jump back, and the other two are facing that direction.
Okay.
But if you have right-handed wound G, they're all going to go the same direction.
Okay, I got you. So this has nothing to do with the video that we're working on, but you guys also make these, and this is the greatest tool ever known to man. That was the first thing I got when I moved here and we did the first video.
I remember that.
I got this, and I'm like, I've used that thing so many times.
Yeah, this one was, we were trying to change a couple of things. That's why that one's shiny.
I was gonna say it looks different than mine's, like a brass.
Yeah.
And sorry, we're talking about this. It's just like it's a height adjustment. Like
Yeah,
Like,
it has 4
key.
different sizes, and it has a little flat head on it. Has 3 different hex size on it. You know, 95% of guitars you can use those
Yeah.
4 tools on, which was the whole idea.
Which, if you're like me and you have like giant fumbly fingers, trying to use those tiny little Allen keys.
Right. Everybody loses them. Everybody uses a 0.5
Yeah,
one instead of the other one, strips it out.
yeah. So I have, like I said, I'll try to remember to put B-roll of mine at home. Oh, I'm telling you, dude, it's I use it constantly.
Especially if you can have like Allen wrench stuff on there.
Because I always lose those little Allen keys. So I'll is that something you guys carry like on hand?
Yeah, we have a ton of them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll put that in here too.
As you can see, the spacing all messed up because it's following those grooves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the outside too, and then we're going to find a sweet spot for all of these. It's a little easier to do it with a little bit of tension off. And you can click it.
Jerry Reed's guitar.
It's really close.
So what is it that you're looking for when you're doing that?
Right now, I'm just eyeing it. Just looking at these gaps.
Spacing.
Yeah, just
Okay.
trying to get as close as we can, because these grooves are less than a string width, just so you can do micro adjustments side to side. And then I'll measure it. Once I get your intonation close, radius close, then we'll know exactly where we're at. I just want to get your radius now, get it really close. Because the problem with it, if you set your radius perfectly and then your intonation's way off, then by the time you get your intonation, then your radius is going to be off. So it's just better just to get in a ballpark of everything. That way you're making tiny adjustments. Most of them are sharp. Not a bad guess.
Well, awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, thank you so much for doing
course.
that. And like I said, I'm going to A/B it when I get home with the footage that I didn't just delete.
Okay.
And we'll see,
Yeah, just let me know.
see how it goes. It's
But-
awesome. Thank you, buddy.
You bet.
Okay, it is all done. Now, like I said, we did remove the bender here for just a minute because I wanted to get the full experience of all 3 saddles, but we are going to put the bender back on here at some point. So I'm curious to hear it now. With this, I'm going to record the same riffs played on this with the changed saddles, and let's see if there's any tonal difference between them. Hey gang, had to hop in here because there's just something weird going on with this neck pickup clip. It's really strange. Everything else is pretty even. I will say the new saddles seem to be louder, like the clips are louder, but the amp is set the exact same, and I recorded all this stuff the same day. But look, the old saddle I have at -1 dB. I have the new saddles at -3, and it still is louder and more overdriven. So I'm not sure. Something might have happened with this clip, but I just wanted to hop in here and add some clarity there because something is wonky with the neck pickup clips. So sorry about that. Okay, so that's really interesting. It definitely changed the sound. Now, I will say, with YouTube compression and all that stuff, you might need to use headphones, but here in person, it does. It maybe a little snappier, a little tighter sounding, or brighter. One thing it did, and I didn't even think to record this, and I wish I would have, but acoustically, the guitar is louder. And Joe said going from steel to brass will definitely change some things. And that's what I did. But one of the things that it has done that I really like is that it's gotten rid of those little pinging harmonics I had here, which I didn't even realize was from the string laying over the screw. You saw the close-ups of it. I'm like, oh, is that why my bridge does that? Like, the Tele, mine in particular, has just been, you know, riddled with all these like issues of all these pinging sounds and all that kind of stuff. But it finally doesn't have that. So that alone, I'm just like, okay, thank you. That's worth it. And yeah, I think it did change the sound a little bit. I mean, hearing them back to back, I'm like, oh, okay, that one's definitely different than the other one. So you guys can let me know. Again, I know you're competing with YouTube compression, and I'm not. I'm hearing it live here in the room. But very interesting. So like I said before, I will link these down below. If anybody wants to check them out, you can. I cannot guarantee you that they will have them. But Josh said you could get on, like, you know, essentially like a waiting list if you want them. But overall, I like them. I think they're cool. I think they look cool. And it did change the sound. Yeah, it's interesting how much louder the guitar is. So, Anyways, Groove Master. Check them out. Later, guys.